which means it's obligatory, even if the slave master didn't want it. Which is, if this opinion is respected, as good as abolition. This is as good as abolition. If this opinion is not respected, then it's not. He talked about Shaykh Salah al-Fawzan. I'll mention that in the conclusion.
Yeah, start. Okay, all Muslims have a very important question to ask today. On the one hand, you have the Bible. A claim is made that Islam and the Bible, the New Testament and the Old Testament are Abrahamic in origin. But what we find are clear differences. In the Bible, we don't talk about racism. We don't talk about abolishing of slavery in the way that he wants them to be spoken of, because the Bible never had slavery like what Islam ever had. What you find in the Bible is the story of God empathizing with slaves, the nation of Israel, redeeming them and leading them on to freedom. This is the story asked. And on the back of that, God of the Bible says, Exodus 22:21, He says, not to mistreat a stranger or oppress him, because you yourselves were strangers in Egypt. So across the Bible, what you find is God of the Bible demanding fair treatment of everyone, regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity, language spoken and so on. And God is seen as God who is impartial in the Bible. And I asked Muhammad multiple times, can you show me a place where women were taken as sex captives? And he couldn't show that. All that he's talking about are a few places where there was political war and entire people groups were asked to be wiped out by God. Now God, my God, God of the Bible judges. If he has a problem with that, well, I can only say judgment is coming. And a few of these judgments came in the past, Amalekites and so on. Judgments came. In contrast, what do you find in Islam? In Islam, Islam clearly says that the black people are not worth as much as the Arabs. One Arab guy is worth two black guys. Black people are like raisin heads, unbelievers are like cattle and so on. And this resulted in very harsh treatments. Sex torture of female slaves, you find in various portions of the Hadith and Quran 4:3, 4:24, Surah Al-Kubra 2:227 and so on. Multiple places you find sex torture of female slaves, Umar torturing female slaves. No rights being given. Quran, Surah 16, Ayah 75 says, slaves control nothing, no right whatsoever. And that free men cannot be punished for the murder of a slave. Quran, Surah 2, Ayah 178. Also repeated in Tafsir Jalalain. So the point is, torture of sex slaves, no rights. Free men are not equal to the slaves. So clearly no equal treatment. And this therefore resulted in Muhammad not permitting or not allowing manumission to happen. Sahih al-Bukhari 5:57-99, 3:765. You find Bilal continuing as a slave. If Bilal says this to Abu Bakr, if you have bought me for yourself, Sahih al-Bukhari 5:57-99. If you have bought me for yourself, then keep me for yourself. But if you have bought me for Allah's sake, then leave me for Allah's work. He is pleading. This great guy, who is the one who calls people and to pray for prayer, he is pleading. If you have bought me for the sake of Allah, leave me alone. But you have still keeping me as a slave. So Muhammad continuing to keep people as slaves. Sahih al-Bukhari 3:765. 5:41 and so on. Slaves working for Muhammad.
You know, he said that the Quran says that disbelievers are like cattle. It doesn't say that. It says belhum illa kal an'ami belhum adallu sabila. That they are like cattle. No. They are more astray than the cattle. And as we've seen today,
worse than cattle. Worse than cattle.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? As we've seen today,
are better.
when the truth, okay, be quiet now, please. Don't waste my time. As we've seen today, everybody, we have seen today that is the case. You're presented with straight facts and you cannot maneuver away from them. You cannot circumnavigate them. You cannot deal with them. You cannot hermeneutically, acrobatically gymnastically get away from them, and the reality of the situation is you're dealt with the blunt truth in front of your face as clear as the day, and you're just scurrying, scared and absolutely anxious that someone like me, without a paper in my hand, knowing your scriptures more than you and knowing my scriptures more than you'll ever know, dealing with you in the way that I've dealt with you. The truth of the matter is, it was actually abrogated. Chapter 2 verse 178 was abrogated with the ayat in Surah Al-Ma'idah where it was talking which is talking an eye for an eye, number one. So that's, and it wasn't what he thought it meant anyway, but it was abrogated in either event. Number one. Point number two, you keep mentioning Bilal. Yeah. Bilal was not a slave when he married Hala bint Auf. He was not a slave when he was literally ascending the Kaaba, telling the people, I'm in charge now, reciting the call to prayer in front of all the Arabs who are literally below him in physical stature. How dare you talk about Bilal in that manner when the Prophet said he will be the one, he can hear his footsteps in Jannah. The things that he said about all the hadiths about black people being in hell, every single one of them is false. None of those hadiths use the word black, none of them. In fact, like I said, the opposite is true. We have explicit statements from the Prophet saying there's no virtue over a black man over a white man, or a white man over a black man, an Arab over a non-Arab. There is no such statement in the Bible. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, we find these genocides of the Amalekites, who he admits us to. He says this is them asking for it, basically. We want to be destroyed. No one asked for genocide, sorry to say. This is the kind of kalam that we find the Israelis doing with the Palestinians, inspired by that horrible Old Testament narrative. Moreover now, let's be honest. Let's be honest and say that even the New Testament, Jesus calling a non-Jewish person a dog. Yes, at the end of it, he said, okay, I'll give you whatever you want. But he still called her a dog because she was a Gentile. That's racism. Your book is fraught, saturated, filled, contaminated, polluted. It is seeping, brimming with racism, brimming with genocide, brimming with racism. You need us, my friend. We don't need anything from you. You come to us and you ask us, why was everything abrogated in the way it was? Because the Prophet Muhammad eliminated racism, the only person in his time to do so, and it was the only emancipatory discourse of any Abrahamic religion in the world, that is Islam. Come to it and stop being arrogant.
That's it. Finish.
All right. Thank you very much, Mohammed.
Bye-bye.
Let's try.
That was good.
Here.
Wow. Amazing.